welcome. Happy new moon in Capricorn. Hi, Jackie. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm excited for our conversation. We're having a pre-conversation before hopping on here for everyone that's joining. And it's just I love what's all gonna come through and really like anchoring in of our big common theme is like how excited and alive we are to play in realms that aren't necessarily the norm and accepted, which brings this like anxiety, but also excitement and this like deep remembrance within inside of us. Like it's not about just whatever. Like the world is not black and white. Like that's the big message coming through.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's really divinely timed that we're having this conversation today. I mean, we chose this day, but not because of the astrology or anything like that. It just made sense as far as scheduling. And we're going to be doing these lives once a month. So we're kind of spacing it out in that way. And so the fact that this is the day of the new moon in Capricorn, that's pretty significant, specifically with this conversation because Saturn is in Pisces, very close to Neptune. So they're both in Pisces and they're completing their cycle moving forward to re-enter Aries here soon. And with Saturn, Saturn is the planet that governs structure, governs tradition, even governs time and space in the physical realm. And with it in Pisces, Pisces is a sign that essentially like basically breaks down all borders or can penetrate through borders, and Pisces is also the sign that is the one, is everything, each thing, and also nothing. So I tend to see Pisces as one, as the oneness, as source energy. And so to have Saturn in this sign that essentially almost has no boundaries, it's like there's a little bit of this discomfort or conflict in trying to establish boundaries, trying to kind of make physical sense out of like energy and spirit and all of that. So with that
It's
to
like
say,
finding your tether, your anchoring point
we,
within the beauty of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how beautiful is it that we live in a world of a spectrum, that you don't have to fit in this box or this box. Like, you get to dabble and play in all the different areas and change your mind. Like, how beautiful is that? Like, it just
exactly.
gives like this juiciness to life.
Yeah. And that really brings to mind how these conversations and our decision to just start sharing this information really stemmed from this feeling of almost like being misunderstood or not feeling connected to earth. Or I know for me personally there has been this ongoing thought in my mind of like, why am I here? Because I love the work that I do. I love living the life the way that I do, and I do feel there's some, of course, some desire to share that. And I feel like that's a part of divine purpose, like for all of us to share our passion and our projects, right? Our passion projects. And at the same time, I felt like I was speaking to like a void. Like, I'm like, nobody really cares. When you see what's popular, it's really not this, even before I
Mhm.
get to the Starseeds. I mean, yes, astrology is becoming more popular, but in the grand scheme of things, like I'm not just an astrologer, and my life is lived in devotion and connection to divine energies and being in that flow. And I don't feel that that is what mainstream society, the external world, is really concerned with, or at least that was my perspective at the time, where I was having this like probably breakdown within my identity and like what I'm doing here, which was not very long ago. And getting into like the starseed material and just having that lovely reading with Jackie, the Akashic record reading, I was really beginning to feel more anchored as a human. Because I really felt too. I was like, no, this isn't. I don't know why I'm on this planet. Like, I've always felt connected to, other
Mhm.
realms, or just connected to space and what's
Anything
beyond.
but here, I can't relate.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, no, I don't think it's time for me to be here. And that could be further from the truth. And so again, that's the
That's
inspiration.
exactly why you're here. And as you go through the and have as you realize as you've gone through your own activation of going, oh, we're in this transition time, and that's why. That's why because I'm helping bridge.
Yes. And it's like the more you learn about galactic history and just really tuning into these different galactic soul groups and the energies and just the stories, right, that we've been telling over time, you feel, or at least for myself, I feel proud to be a human. I feel proud to be here. I've always considered Earth to be a very challenging place to be, like a place for radical evolution and healing. And even more so now, starting to explore and dig deep into galactic consciousness and so forth, that just feels even more true. And so that's why we are here having these conversations with you all
And to
today.
spark curiosity. Like I said, if this triggers you, I have a whole sacred triggering series on Instagram because I love triggers. Like that sounds really weird, but they carry such medicine. And that's the whole point. So if you're feeling triggered or like, I don't know about this, like you two are a little woo-woo out there, like why are you switching your topics? Because I know there's some people in my community that have been that, like because I kept quiet a lot of this side of me. And it's not, if you remember and you understand how humans throughout ages communicated, how do we learn, teach, and evolve? It's through story. So even if you, I suggest you stretch your mind a little bit and look at the definitions like loosely and just feel what's in there. If you don't think that there's other life on other planets, that's fine. Like to each their own, like that's fine. But look at it from a different context then. Look at it like it's a fairy tale and what can you learn? What can you take? What serves you in it? Start
Mhm.
playing and your remembrance will come through in the way that it's meant for you. But don't push it away just because it's unfamiliar. Because that also is a human trait of the unknown is scary, right? But it's in the unknown is where the growth happens. That's where our evolution happens. When we allow that spectrum, once again, we're not in a black and white as much as our brain likes to do, right? The whole point of, especially right now, is that sacred union, bringing them together. How can both exist and I still be safe and okay, and I can
Mhm.
still be in me? Like, I think that is the lesson coming through.
Yeah, and definitely have grace for yourself because since, I mean, years and years and years, right? We have essentially been conditioned to not seek, any kind of divine counsel within, right? We've been told what to believe. And in the context of extraterrestrials, when we look at media, it's very rare that we ever see anything pertaining to extraterrestrials, to aliens, where there's not fear there, and
Mhm.
it's not like they're here to harm us, right? Like we don't see anything kind of contrary. Like you do, but that's more, I would even say taboo, right? If someone's speaking about that, they're like, wait, aliens are good. I don't know about that. And I had this experience last night. I discovered that X-Files is on Hulu, and I was so excited because I love that show when I was younger. And I'm literally watching it just episode by episode from
I
season
love it.
one to, I don't even remember how many seasons there were. But anyway,
Quite a few.
I was watching the first episode, and it's interesting to watch now as an adult and from my current perspective, because I'm like excited for a different reason, but already I can pick up on the themes that the show was kind of placing of, with Mulder, he's like, which is the main one of the main characters, one of the FBI agents, and he was speaking about how basically his sister got abducted, or his theory that she got abducted, she's never returned, like she just disappeared, right? Which I don't know, that could happen, of course, and we'll talk about how, there can be good and bad versions, just like people, right?
And
um
everything.
yeah, but it was just like every other context of like, oh, these people are being, contacted or abducted by aliens, and it's a bad thing, like they're doing this or they're marking them and then they're dying soon after that. And so it's like already the very first episode, it's like aliens equals bad, extraterrestrials equals
Well,
bad.
not even in part of that, like it evolves and it shows that it's not even just necessarily the aliens that are abducting, it's the humans like playing it in there too, is like there's so many
Yeah,
different dynamics of
right.
that and using that to their advantage in that. It's
Yeah.
just it's interesting. It also reminds me of like why I loved shows like Men in Black and things like that. Like
Yeah.
for me, like looking at the beautiful sky and like my connection with divine, like why would God only create us? Like of all this massive space, like that was always my thought. And you know what? Maybe we are. I'm not saying either way, but for me it's like it feels pretty self-centered to think that I'm the only, like, we're the only species capable of intelligence and things like that. Like, and as I've gone through my own journey, my own spiritual journey, and realizing all of the intelligence is like, it literally feels like Men in Black. Like, when I can connect with the essence of the trees and the plants and like all of these things that were not are taboo, like they don't teach you in school that everything has energy, everything has essence, everything is communicating if you soften and open and just listening to the wind and how it's carrying all the messages, all the feelings of everybody. So I can feel Urania just from the wind coming that direction into my way. Like how beautiful and interwoven the whole world is, but we have to slow down enough to come back into connection. And I think that is at least my approach to star seeds. Like that is what it is. It's about really remembering it's not that we are talking about being the special one or separate from humanity. It's talking about souls that carry energy. And we were talking about how like everybody has starseed essence. It's just part of our DNA in that. Like if you literally look from a science point of view, they say that we're made of stardust. Like
Yeah.
so in that point, like there is a bridge between science and woo, if you want to say that, in that. And it's about we're carrying this memory not just of Earth, but other like realms in those spaces, other intelligence, other ways to look at it. Whether we want to say that it's made up stories or whatever, it doesn't matter because that is the morals, the anchoring we're coming through. But all it's doing is showing why we're innately connected to different ways of organizing love, harmony, consciousness in different spaces. And when we allow ourselves to open up and play and just get curious and just why I say play is because our brain likes to say, okay, this is the absolute truth and not. But what if there really is no absolute truth?
Yeah.
And we've had conversations about what is truth and what is truth and how
Yeah.
like was I wrong if I thought this way, if I changed my mind? Like, no, it was your truth in those points. And that could be a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But I think that that's what it is when I got this information. For me, like my background is I've always been fascinated on how the human body and the mind and how it processes and why we do what we do and the functioning. That's why psychology was huge for me because I was like, I want to know what makes us tick. Why does one person choose this and one person like that? Why are these innate fears coming up in this one person, but my husband will jump off of a cliff with a parachute on, no problem, and that's like enjoyment for him? That would be torture for me because I don't like heights. Like, why are we different but yet same? And like these are from a young age. These are the questions that like would come to my mind, and that's why I always was fascinated with Anat and Phys and psychology and sociology, just like the interconnection of people. And I think that that's the whole point is like it's bringing, and that's what I love about Starseeds. It's like bringing these things that literally like whatever tool you use, gene keys, astrology, all these different tools that we come in, they're really just helping to understand ourselves from a different lens for me to go, oh, it's okay to be me. And that's why I tick that way. And I don't care who says whatever. Like this, I'm resonating. It's that remembrance of whatever this tool is, and it's okay and safe to be me. And there's a reason, and now I can lean into being me versus thinking there's something wrong with me. And to me,
Mm.
that's a beautiful thing. That is medicine in itself.
No, I love that. Oh my gosh, you just dropped so many gems. So, just to bring it back to star seeds, because you made a really important point. Like, there's no special group of people that, oh, you're a star seed, and these people are, just regular humans. We're all star seeds. And essentially, the way I would define a star seed is that it's a soul that essentially has roots or lineage in another star system, right? Beyond the solar system that we live in. And once you really get into the storytelling of how, Earth was seeded, you'll realize that there are many different, star or galactic soul families, soul groups that have contributed to being a human, right? What that means in the evolution of humanity. And so when you really start to explore and dig deeper into your own galactic consciousness or that connection to these soul groups, then you'll realize, wow, I have like a little bit of Pleiadians, I have, Syrians
I
and
have
so
all these resources at my fingertips of wanting to share and help nurture and grow and evolve my path. How supported am I? Like, how beautiful is that?
And for those of you watching, if you feel free to participate in the chat, we would love to hear if
Mhm.
there's a star seed group that you connect mostly or, prominently with. And yeah, just put that in the chat. Or if you have any questions about, what we're sharing here, definitely feel free to pop that there and we will answer your questions and also comment on your comments. So that would
Yeah.
be great
So even if
interaction.
you're watching this after we're live, put it in there and we'll reach out and I want to create a community. I want to be able to meet you guys where you're at. It's not just us talking. It's about creating this family feel. And I think that's also important, like what she was saying is the star seeds of like not only the galactic. So one of the main star seed families too is Gaia seed, Earth star seeds, or Earth star seeds, whatever you want to call it too. Like, so there's different, and everyone has a different undercurrent. And I was talking to Urania, how I see it from my perspective is we, just like astrology, you have pieces of all. We're all made of everything. We're all oneness. We're all of the same and yet parts. But there's certain ones that are stronger in this lifetime that are going to help nurture you along your path. And that might even change throughout your lifetime. Like I have a core galactic group, right? My core star seed family. But that doesn't mean that I can't connect with others that I can resonate with and whatever that want to share wisdom and help me evolve as well. And there's some parts of my lineage, if or whatever you want to call it, starseed lineage, that speak to me stronger at certain points of my life because I need more support from that type of energy. And that's the thing, like energy is energy, whatever you want to label it in that what makes you feel safe, take those baby steps. So whether you want to label it something that's safer for your mind right now, if that's where you need to be, meet yourself where you're at. And just my big thing is keep your mind open, allow yourself to play. So when our mind gets scared and starts shutting down and expectations going, we're just playing. Just let me play in this energy and just see what comes up. Because I remember in the beginning, like I was always fascinated because I've always been drawn to the stars. Like I think it was like my 10th birthday. I got a telescope and because I was always doing the stars and I loved the planetariums and like I wanted to learn more. Like there's more out there. Like what is in this vast space? And so I've always had that connection and like that innate piece of me. But then there was also like part of me that was like I call it like the good girl syndrome, of like being accepted and misunderstood and all of these pieces and all this fear of like not belonging. And that's a core human trait, like of if I don't belong in my community or wherever, I'm not going to survive. So like that's part of our mind that will literally start pushing things away. And as I've gone through this journey, like even like if you caught the last live when Urania was asking like questions and I was like this fire just like lit up inside of me and I was like, ooh, a fellow person that will be like open to like hearing and like sharing and expressing. But even then I like took baby steps and I was like feeling her out where she is. And I'm like, what if I would have just came out like and said, this is whatever? And you would have been all for it. But
I would
I
have been
yeah, but like some people that have done that before, they look at me like I all of a sudden grew a third eye. Oh wait, I do have one. And then they put me in this bubble of like, okay, so I lose my credibility or whatever just because
Mhm.
I shared a
Yeah.
different perspective. And I think that that's something we need to open our mind about. It's not about believing or agreeing with everything somebody says. It's like I have so much Gemini in my chart because I love to look at the different vantage points and viewpoints and angles of everything. And I think that's also one of my gifts that I can speak many different languages. I can meet, and we've talked about this, like, because we've had really religious conversations. We've had very, like, mystical woo conversations. We've been talking about being priestesses in past lives and all of these different things. And, like, all of these different angles. And I love that about myself. Like, I can meet you where you're at and I truly believe it's not me like being a chameleon and just saying what you want to hear. No, like I believe that there's more depth to truth than what we've been
You can
told.
feel when I have a conversation with you, I definitely feel the passion in any of us. You can feel when someone's really passionate and they're not just saying this to appease you or trying to make a connection. You can tell when people are speaking from the heart and when they're speaking their truth. You can also tell when people are very guarded and not speaking their truth. And when they meet someone who speaks their truth and they're not in that space, especially when it's about something like out there, say like star seeds, then you start to feel that they close up and they, can reject you. And at the same time, we have to realize that that's about them. It's not about you. And this is something that has actually happened to me often throughout my life, where specifically with significant others, like romantic partners, well, where like I've told you this, Jackie, before, where like my passion and my like curiosity is very attractive initially, but then at some point I take it too far. Like literally I've heard that, like, well, you're just taking this too far, you're doing too much,
They
it's
try to tame you.
right. And they're just like, also I hear, are you really believing this? Like they'll hear me, like this was like probably 10 years ago, and I was listening to a woman who channeled the Pleiadians, and I just like, I'm curious. I listen to, doesn't mean I'm believing everything, but
Yeah,
I listen to
you're
multiple
open.
this, because like with the Gemini energy, there's truth. There's a little bit of truth in everything. Like you hear these different perspectives, and through these perspectives, if you're really curious and you pay attention to the subtleties, you will see how, oh, there's that's connected to this. Like even in, we talk about Christianity and some of that perspectives and so forth in the stories, there's a little bit of truth in that, right? And it's connected to this, where we're like, there's a little bit of witchcraft in there, or, there's a little bit of,
They're
extraterrestrial.
all infused, whether we want to look at it from that phrase. Like
Yeah,
they're all
you
the same energy. They're all saying the same
yourself.
thing.
Exactly. And so that's what's exciting with when you're approaching these different perspectives, and also even using different modalities. So when you really start to dig into starseed stuff, and just building on the definition of starseeds, my perspective is that when you resonate with starseed, like the term starseed, and you start exploring and digging, essentially that is your own activation, right? That is your internal starseed beginning to bloom, to blossom, or to sprout. Basically the seed is sprouting within, right? And there's a curiosity and a magnetism within that connection of what's beyond this realm, what's beyond this dimension. And when you mentioned, Jackie, how, there are different galactic soul groups that you resonate, at different times, or there's maybe one that's more dominant and with you, your entire life. That's the same thing as spirit guides, right?
100%.
And so I tend to approach it in that way as well. And once you really start getting curious and opening yourself up without judgment, but without also being like, oh, well, this is absolute truth, you'll start to see information will find you in practices that you already do, right? So for me, of course, I do. I mean, I'm an astrologer, right? So I see it in the charts, and I've never had any formal, training as far as when it comes to even like fixed stars. Like I've studied a little bit, but I couldn't pull it up and like, oh, this means this
Mhm.
specifically. But everything just started coming to me, and it's that remembering. And even in dreams, I started, like, once I opened my mind to it, I'm realizing that, oh, these specific dream symbols are guides, are galactic guides. And so I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible experience.
And that is when you allow yourself to play and you soften and create that safety of just allowing in your like that's what it is. I always say I'm not teaching you something new. I'm helping activate your own remembrance. And that may be slightly different than mine, and that's okay. Because we're all designed exactly the way we're meant to be. Because if we were all the same cookie cutter, how are we supposed to grow and evolve? We stretch each other. And that's why I say even if the word start with just the word starseed and just note what resistance come up. I do the same thing like Urania can ask, like when I took her through Gene Keys the first time and she's like, I feel all this resistance. And I said, perfect. And we're like, what? No, that's good. Where is the resistance? Let's lean into that. Let's figure that out first.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I feel like that resistance is, it's again with that conflict and that challenge that we spoke about before, that creates like the greatest evolution. Not to like put them on what's better, on that type of scale, but it's like when you feel that resistance, feel that conflict, again, someone shutting down like towards you, or maybe you have hesitation of like even speaking your truth, there's something there, right? There's something that is presenting itself as an opportunity for you to expand, for you to learn more about yourself, and to, like, that expansion comes through that presence with it. and the observation and being able to integrate that, which is like a process that Jackie and I both have experienced with this specific material. And it's ongoing because, again, this
You
is
see it
not
in all areas of life.
popular culture. Like, even in the spiritual community, it's like, oh, you can talk about, spirit guides, and you can talk about this and that. But when we start talking about extraterrestrials, like, there's even a smaller pool within the
Mhm.
spiritual community. And I start to see that. Like, I have, friends that are like astrologers, they're open to, like tarot and, those type of guys coming in, and just that type of, energy that's unseen, that's untouched. But then when I started talking about extraterrestrials, I kind of had this, like, and no one said anything to me,
Mhm.
but I see them watching my content,
Like
my
us.
stories and all that. And I'm just I'm in my own head about how am I being seen and whatnot. So there's some resistance, there's some discomfort and kind of like stickiness that I am navigating right now as I'm
Mhm.
expressing myself, which I feel like I kind of have a pass because I'm an Aquarius, and they're like, oh, she's an Aquarius. This is her nature. Like, she's going to be weird. And Aquarians are known to be into aliens. So at least I have that. And I literally counsel myself with that as well. It's like, oh, well, you're an Aquarius, so it's kind of expected. But it's such an interesting journey to be on.
And that was the conversation we were having before is like my big thing is becoming free and fully expressed. And this is part of the journey of allowing myself to be all of myself. I've been saying it for years. I just want to be loved for all of me and not put parts of me and tuck them away because it doesn't feel safe. Like, you don't have to agree with all of me, but I'm still going to show up because guess what? Being uncomfortable and triggering people is a part of who I am. I am a catalyst, and I had to remember that. Like, whether it's a trigger like that lights a fire and you're super excited, or a trigger that goes, ooh, because either way, it's a trigger. Like, even when you get that resistance, there's something there, there's some truth there, there's a charge there, hence the reason your being is reacting. So, what is there for you? That doesn't mean that you agree with that. Like, that's not what that means under. It just means, okay, let's get curious. Why did that emotion come up? What storylines are attached? And that's your growth. So if it's really like you don't believe in star season, whatever, and I'm here to trigger you to find your truth, then awesome. If it is like this is the journey and I know that I can feel the remembrance and there's something there and I don't really know what it is. I want to play, I want to learn more, and I'm gonna come in. Either way, like I'm doing my role is being me. And I had to remember it's not something I do. It's just me being me, sharing my heart, my passion. And if you sit with me even for more than 5 minutes, you know that I don't have an agenda. Like when I talk, I'm not here to convince you. I'm not trying to say I am absolute right and this is the only way. I believe there's 50 million ways to wherever. I'm here to say try this on, try this, see whatever. I'm empowering you to make your own decision. I'm not ever going to tell you what to do or how to think. Like I believe that the world has been doing that for far too long. I want
Mm,
to help us remember how to think and create and fall down and scrape our knees and get back up and go, ooh, that's smarted. But look at me, I'm doing it anyway and I can get back up. Like
mm,
that is my passion of really allowing ourselves to set ourselves free. Because if we did everything perfect, this is also another like one of my core wounding of perfectionism is like if I was perfect all the time, how was I going to learn? How am I going to grow? How am I going to evolve? It's in those mistakes, it's in those failures, it's in those moments that I fall and scrape my knees that I remember my strength. I
mhm.
remember how to pivot. I remember how to anchor and stand on my own 2 feet without having everybody else carry me, right? I can lean into those sports, but at the end of the day, I'm here to save me.
Mm, mhm. So yeah, so I want to tie up this like first focus that we have here, essentially, of what is a star seed. So the short answer is that all humans are star seeds, right?
Mhm.
And we all have connections to other star systems beyond this solar system. So that essentially is what a star seed is. And when you really feel yourself connecting to just the energy, the essence of, beyond just recognizing starseed and that drawing you in, but when you start to feel a little bit disassociated from Earth or from being a human, feeling misunderstood, all of that, when all of those feelings start to arise, that is when I have really observed within myself and within others that seed within you is beginning to sprout, and there's a curiosity there, and that seed in itself, like the roots there are anchored in earth, right? And so we are all part of the oneness. We're all part of all that is, or source energy. And then we start to kind of stem off, or we then break off, fragment ourselves, right? Into these different perspectives or soul groups or densities and so forth. It's like you mentioned before, Jackie, about that prism, the example of the prism, and how that oneness, that light will shine through a prism, and then it is fragmented into the seven colors, or they say the seven densities. I really like this book here, The Prism of Lyra. If you're curious about the origins of the human consciousness and extraterrestrials and so forth, this is a really good book to read, and it's really short, and it goes through the different soul groups as well, and humans on Earth, their connection to that, and how everything kind of came into being. But do you want to add anything else to that as far as like what a starseed is?
It pretty much is like the essence of like not just this planet. This planet is one star seed. Like if you have strong ties, and we're actually creating videos that are going to drop in that we go over the groups where you can actually lean in and kind of learn a little bit about some of the core groups. They're endless, but these are the main ones that I see when I come into the Kasha and those pieces, just so you can start getting curious and like anchoring in of that. And like the other big thing is remembering like starseeds are deeply human. They are actually more sensitive, and like the more we realize it, we're more sensitive and more connected to the earth when we allow that. Like our sensitivity and being able to feel in our surroundings makes us deeply more connected. So sometimes we may feel like we're observing life from the edges, and that also like Urania was saying is like actually that's our starseed like waking up and realizing that we are different, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful thing that we are different because we are here to bring a different flavor to this earth experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that's I feel like we covered like the basics of starseeds that way.
So we have a comment here from the spiritual scholar. Spiritual scholar says, amazing conversation, ladies. Thank you. When my friend first told me you're a star seed in June of 2025, since that moment, everything changed. My life and this journey finally makes sense. I love hearing that. That's exactly, I don't know what it is, but once you really open yourself to it, it seems like contradictory, but it's like you feel more connected to your life here, and that is really exciting. When you go from one place of not feeling connected or feeling really misunderstood, and then you have this journey and a continuous like activation and realization and all of that, to really start to feel grounded in your life and as a human. It's a beautiful experience.
100%.
Okay, so we're going to share on how best to, or I don't want to say how best, but essentially the different ways you can uncover and remember your galactic origins. So Jackie will share our experiences, but I would say,
Our signature ways of how
yeah.
we kind of connect and see and discover that and unfold that.
And again, the information, the wisdom will find you no matter what. You just
Mhm.
have to call it in or be curious in yourself to receiving that. But more than likely, whatever modalities, whatever passion projects you're devoted to, like the wisdom's gonna come through those channels.
Mhm.
So mine is, of course, astrology. Actually, I don't even know if that was the first point that it came through. I
Dreams
would
too for
say
you.
dreams, and also my curiosity around metaphysics. That's what prompted this recent um experience and exploration with starseeds, because I've been listening to like people who channel Pleiadians and Syrians and so forth, but it didn't really like hit me in the way that it hits now, where it was more of a curiosity and I was kind of like a researcher or observing. But now it's like the messages are directly to me and my connection with these groups, but the connection's been there the whole time. So I think for me recently, with reorganizing my business and my whole identity, changing my name and all of that, I started to really connect back with just the philosophy and the philosophy of what is existence, what's the nature of existence, the nature of reality. And through that, I don't know, it just started to find me because it's like, oh, you want to know about, the nature of existence and reality, just beyond, not even, connected to earth, but beyond that.
Mhm.
Then everything started opening up. Then came the Akashic record reading with Jackie. Then came, looking at the chart and starting to receive that perspective in a different light. And then it, and also through dreams. Dreams is a big one too. So what about you, Jackie? What was kind of your initial?
Well, like my big thing is, like I was saying earlier, is I was always fascinated of what makes us human. Like why our body functions the way it does. Why does our mind think the way and do that? Why do these emotions spark up and why sometimes am I triggered and sometimes I'm not? Why do I feel this shame all of a sudden in here and this resistance here? Like it was literally trying to understand myself and other people because a lot of times I felt misunderstood. So it was like, why? What am I doing wrong? So it was kind of based on that, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I too much and not enough at the same time? And how it almost came from my like people pleasing tendencies, right? Of like, how do I belong? How do I fit in that space? But then like that was the safe way about it. And then it actually cracked me open into discovering me. And at the end of the day, it's not about fitting in, it's about belonging. And true belonging means I belong with me. And the right people are going to be there. They're my circle. It's kind of like that that analogy where they're like you can take like this dad gave this guy his son a car and told him take it to the junkyard and tell him to tell you how much it's worth and came back said this price. Take it down to the street to the dealer over here and see how much they'd give you. Take it to this guy over here that lives in this house or whatever. And then it was actually like moral of the story is it actually was a collector car. Well, the junkyard said it was like worth $200. The car dealership, oh, I could trade you in for 1,000, but it actually was like hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, like whatever the thing is, depending on the eye of the other person in the relationship. And like that's where it started is realizing like I need to belong with me and I need to accept me and understand me before I can let anyone else in. If I don't find my own relationship with me, like how do I expect somebody else to be in a true relationship with me in that? And so that's like the basis of everything I do. We were talking about that. It's the undercurrent, like, and what I love about this is I can address people that relate and resonate with starseeds. I can address with Girl with Jackie B. I talk more about like the to women and the good girl syndrome and all of that, like really setting yourself free in all areas and fully expressed in all different paces. Like no matter where I show up, it's that same undercurrent because that is like the innate essence, like part of my soul mission. So it was kind of understanding how the human works and why we do what we do and the motives and the intent. Like that's why I love psychology and all of the things. But along the way, I found all of these little like modalities and tools and things like that. Like I have 3.5 years of pre-med before my bachelor's degree in nursing. So I have like the modern medicine point of view. I've also studied more of the ancient practices as well. Like I have all of these different things, but not one is better than the other. They all give me different vantage points, all
Yeah.
different things to anchor. And that's what I love about it. And that's where the journey with the Akasha kind of came through. And that's where a lot of the Starseed stuff um, comes through for me. Obviously, my dreams, and I can channel, I can, all of these different things, but it all started with opening up and getting curious um, about that. And for those that don't know what the Akasha and the Akashic Records is, they say like it's referred to as like the book of life, so to say. But for me, it's not a book. It's not just a place. It's really a field of consciousness. It's like a living archetype or archive of soul memories, timelines, and soul origins. And time is a human made up construction, like so everything's kind of happening all at once. But you can tap in and you can access the Akashic Records. And how I do it is my role as an Akashic librarian is not to tell somebody who they are. It's to listen and receive and access the records in a way like a librarian. That's why I like to call it a library. Like a way a librarian accesses like sacred text, right? With reverence, with consent, with clarity, and just receiving. And a lot of times what I even receive, and Uranian can attest, is like it doesn't even necessarily make 100% sense to me, But when you share it out loud, you're like, oh my gosh, how did you even know? Like that like brought this whole other
Love that.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because that's the whole point is like it's not for me, it's like little remembrance and activations. Like that's why it's an activation. It's to activate remembrance within the person that I'm reading for. And yes, I read for myself too, but like that's what it is it's feeling there. And like when I'm in there and I'm looking at the starseed timelines, it's not necessarily like a sci-fi story like appears. It's literally what I am feeling is the emotional imprints, the I mean, yes, there's guides and things that share different messages and things like that, but it's emotional imprints, like sensory memory, like values that you've carried through lifetimes, like there's familiar and like certain frequencies addressed with different soul groups. And like that's what I'm looking and feeling and assessing for. It's not putting it here. It's like these are the energies, these are the things that are coming to play that are here to be shared. Like that's how I look at it. And we don't go looking for starseed timelines to escape the earth. We
Mhm.
access them to learn more about how to live fully here. That's the whole point. Is like how can we take those skill sets and make us a even deeper and stronger human? So
Mhm.
for me, the Akashic Records gave me language to some of the things that I felt but I couldn't explain. They really helped me understand my own sensitivity and my depth and my ability to hold many perspectives at once, and that we're not something to fix, it's something that we get to steward, right? Like we the powers and the gifts that we have, it's something that we steward throughout life, how we wield with grace and love and in compassion with that. And so the Akashic Records isn't here to tell you who you are per se, it's like to remind you what you already carry.
Yeah.
And it's not about like same thing as when you're doing past life work. It's not about I need to know every detail about my past life. When I go in and I look at those past life things, what they normally say, and like they're pretty clear with me interact. Like if somebody is like just wanting to have all those details, it's like what is that going to serve you in your human experience? That's the point is like you don't need to know it if it's not like that's the reason we forget, right? Like you
You
don't
need
need to know it
to.
unless it moves you in this lifetime and supports it.
Well, I have an interesting perspective on past lives now too. And, my thing is knowing, like I have to catch myself, especially actually last night, I had to catch myself because it was like I'm over consuming. I felt like I was just like, I like can't get enough of this, right? And I'm like reading like two books at one time, different perspectives on starseed or extraterrestrials. And then I'm also like, then I started watching Ancient Aliens. And so it's like everything that I'm doing is just like submersed in this realm and this study. And I had to stop myself last night because I'm like, Urania, okay, just do something else. And then I discovered X-Files and I was like, okay, well, this is like
That
fiction.
brings you back into this space that it's like we're constantly learning. We love that, but it's like
Right.
how do we anchor into my real life too?
Which that's probably that's in my gene keys too, as I've learned recently. But yeah, so where was I going with this? But yeah, you need to know what you need to know when you need to know it, right? Spirit, your inner being, your higher self, however you want to look at it, will let you know, they'll inform you and keep you on a need to know basis. So you don't have to know everything all at once. In my perspective, when it comes to past lives, if you shift your perspective to everything happening at once, essentially, when you are connecting, learning, tuning into a past life, or the way I see it is like a simultaneous timeline. So there's an aspect of you that is, living that life in that existence. And you have the ability to tune into that, moment in time on the timeline and you're taking in the information. So there's almost like an energy exchange within that moment. So it's not even like it could be like a past life, like that's all happening simultaneously. You're just tuning in and receiving that energy and that wisdom because it is helping you at this point in your life. That's why a lot of us, we connect with different past lives, or different aspects of ourselves at different points in time, and they're very impactful for that specific point in time. And so again, like Jackie said, this is not about, like an identity thing. This is about feeling more connected to who it is that you are and your purpose here and just existence within, this timeline, I guess you could say. So it's coming back to yourself and really understanding that you are whole and, all of these aspects are connected to you. Um, yeah.
Well, even with past lives, like I've had clients that we talk about it, and I always say, like, I meet you where you're at. Like, so if you don't believe in reincarnation, you don't believe in that, like, that's fine. So look at it from a different point of, like, so you believe in ancestry, like you had grandparents and they had grandparents. And I said, what if it wasn't you living these past lives? What if this is your ancestry and that's what being passed down? All of this is in your DNA. So whatever frame of reference you want to look at it, is these are the common patterns, the common energy that is literally in our DNA being handed down. So that's what they, when you see like the trauma breaking and the generational shifting and all of that, where it says like it ends with me, peace, like that is this is the exact same thing. The exact same thing, just a different way of looking at it from a different angle. Because that's what it is. It's just saying, okay, so I'm here. I could either repeat the pattern or I can interrupt it and decide we're going to heal. We're going to change the directory of my whole lineage, whether that's galactic, whether that's blood, whether that, like, whatever you want to look at it is, we're changing the energetic field because we're making choices. We're evolving.
And
That's
that
what it
works
is.
with the simultaneous existence because it's like if you're all connected in that moment as like a one soul, like if you think about the oversoul and then it has a different fragments, then that clearing within you, as you're having that clearing, they're also having that clearing because they're impacted by the shift in the consciousness, in the collective consciousness of that soul. So that definitely makes sense. And yeah, and so just coming back to being a human, being a star seed, and how this learning and remembering really anchors you back to your, your purpose or, your existence as a human here. And I mentioned how, Earth is a very challenging place to be. And from my understanding, what I've, learned as I've been studying is that essentially, as we mentioned, Earth is seeded by many different, galactic soul groups. And a part of the intention, from my understanding, is that some of this seeding happens um, as an intention or purpose to heal, those emotional patterns, those experiences. Say, if you think about the Orion Wars, like the wars that happened with Lyra and all of that stuff, where it's like, you weren't able to work out those trauma signatures, right? Those imprints. Souls come to Earth, have that experience where you can really, really like radically heal that through the process of forgetting and through like this dense reality and so forth, right? And so again, like from my approach with astrology, I see that it's really helpful when I look at the astrology chart, because my perspective of looking at astrology is that, we have essentially chose to come into this lifetime, into this body at that point in time, in that, city and state or country, and on that day, right, to anchor in this energetic imprint, right? And of course, it's going to be moving, it's going to flex and evolve, but this is the initial energetic foundation of our soul's purpose here in this particular lifetime, right? And so, as I've been learning more and more about these galactic soul groups, I've been able to identify the patterns or the imprints through the planetary placements, right? And so, just for myself as an example, I have a very strong connection with the Syrian galactic family or galactic soul group. And I see that I feel like they're very Saturnian in nature, a little bit of Aquarius. But my chart is very like heavy Saturn. And but then with the Syrians, some people don't realize that there is like this emotional, compassionate energy. Like they want to help humanity. They really want to, they just want to create a nice structure in a way that we can evolve and execute, that purpose, that mission of healing, right? So is this devotion and love that comes through and wants to support and have that kind of humanitarian, there's a humanitarian aspect to them. and that's absolutely Aquarius, right? That Aquarius energy. And there's some Saturnian aspects too. And I, notice, once I learned about my galactic connection and what's more dominant for me as far as the specific groups, then looking to my birth chart, I start to see how these patterns align. And recently doing readings, like astrology readings, not trying to receive information about, starseed stuff, like that wasn't the purpose of the reading. But as I'm doing it, like this other insight and wisdom
You
coming
can't
through,
not see it
like,
anymore.
oh, like this is totally Pleiadian signatures and so forth. And so again, I didn't learn this from, a book or a teacher. This is like the remembering. It's coming through my natural channel of like reading or interpreting the patterns of the sky through astrology. And of course, I also have my practice where I do a lot of deep meditation, and I like to work with, I don't always do it intentionally, but I like to work with the astrological energies and the timing of what's rising and so forth, or what's like peaking in the sky. And the super full moon in Cancer, just as I'm about to do my meditation, and it was the only moment I could really do it because of just life, I'm like looking out my window that faces east, and I'm looking for the moon, but it had already, it's already overhead almost. But then I look and I see a star in the distance, and I'm like, and I know I know what Sirius looks like, or I know like generally when it's Sirius. And so I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Sirius. And I looked on my phone and like on my app, and it was definitely Sirius. And then my meditation was in connection with my Syrian galactic guide. And so these different modalities, whatever you're comfortable with, will begin to open up. And then you'll just start to receive more and more insight through your natural, spiritual channels.
100%. I forgot to share, like that's a little soul. Like I do shamanic breath work, and that's a lot of the input and information that comes through is really connecting with myself and into that trance state and the energy moving. That's another one of my ways that I gather information.
Yeah. So we have a little bit more time. Jackie, are you okay on time? Or I don't know if you
Yeah,
need to.
I'm okay. I'm okay with time. I don't know, like our game plan, like we don't ever like these are natural conversations. We don't like script them out or anything like that. But we were talking about, I think the last part of the soul groups where we were going to touch on that, since we already are recording videos, I think we can probably bypass that. But I would love to talk about like what an activation feels like, especially because with your experience is like people say like, oh, this is an activation, and then you do this activation or whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
want you to speak into your experience because I remember like you're like holy shit, like this is actually what an activation feels
Yeah.
like. Like I now have like an experience to tie through in which like this is completely different. Like I would love for you to share your personal experience, and then I can share kind of like some backgrounds of like the common like themes that I see as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So just this is like really fresh. Jackie did Akashic record reading for me, which I've had a well, maybe I've had one or two from other people, but not like directly like this is it, but that's what was accessed. And I've been into the Akashic myself through my own travels, but this was a little bit different. And essentially, yeah, it was like my soul, like obviously needed this, wanted this. I don't know, but not Jackie is just amazing. But no, I really felt activated. Like again, I was in a place where I was just feeling really disconnected and didn't really know what I was doing, in the sense of like, I mean, I'm doing this for myself, but when it comes to sharing it, like, do I really want to share? But anyway, Jackie, did the reading for me, just offered. And it was, I know I spoke about this before, but it just, everything kind of came together. And it was like, it was an activation, but also like an opening, because I mean, at the time I was already having like dreams involving dogs. They were very aggressive, and it was a whole thing. There were anxious dreams for the most part. And I kind of think that led also into the Akashic record reading, because so many things were coming up. And the Syrian connection came through, and that just made sense, as they do have that connection, or represented by, considered the dog star. And Sirius is in the constellation of the Canis Major. And so everything just started to come through, and that inspiration, the connection to, you know, being a human and all of that, it just kind of, it came through. And I felt like this vitality come forth, right? So it affected me on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it hasn't been always like amazing, but it definitely opened up like this channel, and this experience of like, oh, this is, it was true remembrance, this is why I'm here. And Jackie touched on stuff that we hadn't even shared, like my long-term vision of having a temple, like creating my own temple, not just for dreams but for spiritual practice and so many other things. And I was so excited because I was like, oh my god, because Jackie also, we had these conversations, and she had invited me to share my long-term vision months ago, but I just never got around to it because life and also where I was mentally. And so the fact that she really, like, that was a big part of the reading, I was just, it was amazing. So it was very activating.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, so there's certain things that come through, and it's not a like I see myself like literally as a librarian or a vessel. Like, it's not for me to digest per se. It's like this is the information to give to them to remember, and here's some follow up to really help support in that process. And that's what it is. It's like I'm not telling her this is what it is and how whatever. I ask her questions, and I help spark that her own remembrance and her own pathways with it. And how I see activations is like on a physical side, like I'll break it down to the five pillars that I see: physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual is the five pillars that I see everything as through. But physically, you can have this like energy, but also like on the other side, like you can have this like this vitality, this burst of energy that comes through, but you also can have this like fatigue without like understanding at points. Like so it's almost like this roller coaster ride after an activation. It's like you get this high and then it's kind of like, who I need to reintegrate. All of that is normal. The body can ask for more support. So it could be, it want more water, more quiet, slow down, kind of integrate space without really knowing why. That's also part of the activation process. Your nervous system can feel a little jumpy and heavy. Like it can feel jumpy and then it can feel heavy next. And kind of like goes through, once again, another sign of that recalibration. It's literally like you're on like two energy frequencies, and the remembrance happens because here's the two energetic frequencies, and it's kind of going like this until
Mhm.
it can align back up.
Yeah.
Like you're just calling it back in and you're coming back into emergence, that sacred union with it. And so like your body then has to adjust with that too, right? So sometimes you can feel overstimulated, or sometimes you're like, I can take on the world at the same time. Like it's like these very duality type energies coming in. In those times, like what I normally recommend is you might need a little more grounding. You might have to eat foods that help ground. You may want to get your feet in the bare grass or on earth to really help just anchor you in. Because once again, it's just the energies are moving. You're the anchor. Remembering once again, it's not about escaping to the surreal, right? It's not going to the astral. It's anchoring that into this human experience. Like we're not here to be in la la land. Like we came to earth for a reason. So
Well,
let's be.
that's something, yeah, you really touched on. I think it's really important to realize that as you open yourself to these galactic energies, right, and making that connection, because it'll go beyond your Akashic record reading, your astrology reading, and so forth. They're going to start connecting with you, right? And you are going to therefore be in the field with higher frequency energies, and it can be destabilizing to the nervous system. I mean, we talk about ascension symptoms and all of that, so it's very similar. And that's something I've been experiencing, is that especially because I do the deep trance meditations, and I do them pretty much regularly. I've got back into my meditations, and so that was one thing I realized, is that I have to literally ground my, like, I have to do a grounding visualization, whether it's a whole thing or it's a quick one, but just anchoring myself to earth, because it's easy to kind of lose yourself, or like, yeah, you're kind of, yeah, your nervous system is just going to, there's a lot of energy surging through you and around you. And then to shift from that and into, what we say with the 3D world or living, it can be kind of drastic, right? And that can also take a toll on you emotionally, because I know for me, when I'm in meditation, I don't want to get out of meditation. And I'm just like, oh, I have to go back to the real world. I have to do this stuff. And it's just like that feeling, that vibration feels so good. And this could even, you can even feel this vibration
Goes
just
back
through
home.
conversation, right? And learning and remembering different things. And it's like, so that transition can be a little bit drastic. So
Mhm.
it's really important, like you said, Jackie, to ground yourself, to put your feet on the ground or whatever you can do. Also to eat with the flow of your body. Like I've been actually eating a lot less, probably because of the higher vibration. And I feel like more denser foods take a time to digest. So it's like I'm being really aware and intuitive with my body and what it needs.
What
Like I
it's
need more water and so forth. Like so spot on. That is exactly what I've been experiencing through this transition.
100%. Well, and that's the thing is also remembering like what you're touching on. Like when I'm in trance, like I don't want to stay there. It's because you're an energetic being in a human experience. So when we tap back, it almost feels like home in that space too. Is like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm remembering I'm this energetic being. I am this divine essence. And then that's the key though, is to go, okay, and I get to bring that back into because I'm a divine human. So I get to
Mhm.
bring that back in, and it's not just good to know information. Like for me, integration and application or what's the word I'm looking for? Implementation is huge. You don't want to just journey to journey and then do nothing. That was nice, awesome. Keep going in the same patterns
Yeah.
and loops. It's like, okay, so what am I going to take from that? How am I going to live in devotion? And Urania and I are both live very integrated and devoted lives of like, okay, so this is the message coming through. So what does that mean in my real life human experience? Like, how can I start infusing some of that in? And it's not like I have to completely turn my world upside down. How do I slowly babysit, integrate some of that into my now?
Mm-hmm.
As well. Like I think that that's also part of the integration to be able to anchor ourselves in both realities at the same time. Like you are divine and human and bringing it together, which also then brings us to like the mental part. So like you're gonna start questioning your old beliefs, and this is where the was I wrong before? Like I thought that was the truth or what? Like all of this like questioning
Mm-hmm.
is like you'll have so much clarity, but then it will be followed by confusion, and that's normal. That's because you're trying to find your anchor point of like our mind's job is to find out where's the truth, what's going on. Because how I look at our ego is actually a personal assistant that for this earth experience of going, okay, my job is to whatever she says is true, bring it to reality. So she wants to stay here. And like, you know what I mean? Like this is whether it's a good truth or a bad truth, whatever you want to label it as. But if I think that this is my truth, they're literally like our earth guides, tour guides, like, okay, you want more of that? Awesome. Got your order. Let's put it out. Universe, this is what she wants. Like, and so once you learn that, you're like, oh, okay, like I've been ordering this, even though like consciously I've been saying I want this, but this is the frequency. They don't go off of just words, they go off of frequency. So let's then shift and play. Like that's a whole nother like part of the work I do of that. And so the whole point is like when we have an activation there is like this duality like contrast of like questioning old beliefs and sometimes anchoring these feelings that we already had and like oh yes there's like a solidification of like I knew this was my truth all along and like there's this less tolerance for surface level bullshit almost like it's like I don't want surface level like I want the deep I want to understand there's more to this like that energy kind of comes through and like all of a sudden all this knowing will come through like Urania is like I don't know why I know this but this is what, like all of a sudden I'm seeing these connections that's very very typical of activations an emotional point of view, you can experience like this like old grief coming up, this longing you can't name, like waves of tenderness can come through or feeling exposed emotionally. Those are all very normal. Like it's like this heightened emotional things. It's like literally we just if you look at it like a computer, like we opened this zip file that's been like compressed here. Now we opened this file that has all of these different memories and emotions that are going to now move and integrate through our body. Activations are actually a very beautiful and complex process. And we do that on purpose because like our human brain can only handle so much. So That's why we store, why we say like we store trauma in the body and things like that. That's what we do is we compress them into little zip files all over. And part of like what I call soul return in that is like reclaiming, is going back and reclaiming parts of us when we create safety and held, right? Like we're ready, we can slowly start opening those zip files, clearing out the junk we don't need and where we want to anchor in our truth. And then we can integrate it back into wholeness and then move to the next. But it's not because we're broken, it's because we're coming back. We're already a whole being to start with. Everything's already here.
Hmm.
So we're not searching for something outside of us. It's already here. It's just don't overload the system little bits at a time. So
Yeah.
like that's how I see um part of the emotional pieces that come through. All of that, all of it's normal. There's nothing wrong. Whether you feel extreme joy, extreme happiness, like I'm crying tears and I don't know because I'm remembering like this is my family, this is what I've experienced, like that can come through as you're remembering some of this. But also like some deep griefs because once again these are galactic imprints that are coming through as well. And as Urania has experienced like with like the Lyran background, like there were like the Lyran wars and things like that. So it's like there's bittersweet moments that can come through and you're like, I don't even know what that is, but it's the remembrance piece. And then energetically, your intuition can heighten. You can start feeling other people's emotions and things around you because your sensitivity is up. Your innate like gifts, which everyone has, we all have the ability for our clairs and everything. Everybody has access to that. We just don't realize it and we don't practice and we're not taught that. But all of that will start heightening. So our hearing and everything, like certain things will start turning on. So like it's almost like the intuition gets louder. Everything like can almost feel overstimulating because you're taking it all in. Remembering like, okay, yes, I'm learning how to manage this sensitivity instead of shutting down and rejecting and pushing away. Once again, it's just to remind you like this is all normal. This is you integrating. It's the whole integrating process. Spirituality side of things is like that the remembrance coming through is like all of a sudden like you can see these images pop up in your mind if you're visual or you're like so those remembrances of that like Urania is like I literally saw like the temples and things like that can come through or sometimes it's just like this knowing of this like phrase or this practice or for me like a lot of the times when I'm doing activations like I do modalities before I know that they are even a modality like even with my studies, my spiritual studies and different things, like I'll train under this modality because it's calling to me. And I realized I've been practicing this modality for years. I just didn't know, like, I did not have any clue of what it is, but I was doing it because it was already part of me. Um, in that, like, so like those type of things, like, you kind of feel guided without the instruction. Like it's like literally you have your own spiritual team and whatever. Like you create this like trust instead of like always having this urgency to do things right and do all the things. It's like it's a trust of it's all unfolding. All of this like remembrance comes through. So for me, how I look at activations, it's not a fireworks show per se. Like it's not just like a ooh beautiful like good feeling in that. It's a true integration. Not that it doesn't feel like that. Activations can feel very expansive and beautiful that way, but it's the integration process. It's normally like the almost like a roller coaster until we like stable out.
Yeah. I would say personally, yeah, the spirit, it's crazy when you like with the intuition and all of that, because I've noticed since the activation and, further on, like through my dreams, through my meditations, like when I do readings with people, I mean, it like, I don't know, like my intuition, my insight, it just pulls out directly whatever they need to hear. I don't know how it works, like, and I've been doing these readings for a long time, but there's just something that it's just more expansive. And now I know, like, I'm working for a spiritual app, like doing spiritual advising. So doing these readings and just sitting with people on the app, just totally anonymous. I don't know these people, but like the messages, everything coming through has been so on point. Even my comprehension has heightened. So I'm like reading multiple books at once, and it's not just like I'm like it's landing, it's integrating. And so it's like my level, like my consciousness has definitely ascended or like expanded in a way that's been, more profound than it's ever been. And it's so easy. It's like it's so natural, it just flows. And what I really enjoy about, Jackie and I both, and I think this is why we connected as far as like co-collaborating, well, collaborating is a code thing, collaborating in this space, is that we both are very like spiritual, and we expand our consciousness and we gather all these different ideas, wisdom, stories, and so forth. But we're very like practical in the sense of like embodiment, right? So there has to be a balance of being in those higher energies, tuning to the frequency, but also embodying what's coming through. And so again, that's why I had to catch myself last night where it's like, okay, I'm taking in all the information. Okay, you're good. Like now let it integrate,
Integrate.
right? And see how it moves through you and informs like the way you express yourself, the way you express your energy, the way you share. Because that's really important as we are uncovering or remembering our connection to these galactic soul groups and our role and just like how it influences us. There's a component, a major part of this is that expression and sharing with the collective, because on earth, I mean, we start out essentially like, or we don't start out, but there's the forgetting, right? And the way that our society has, created the evolution, right? For us, in a sense, is that like they're shutting down all of these centers, right? So there's even more of a profound forgetting. And
Yeah,
so,
it's not even like how I look at that forgetting is like, yes, we have the spiritual amnesia, so we don't have all the remembrance like we would, but that's part of the earth experience, right? And but even if you think about a child, they're a lot more open,
yeah,
a
there,
lot more energetically open than we are. So it's almost like this like forgetting that still happens like through the inner child piece as
yeah,
those things like the world conditions you and shuts those down. Um, but I believe like the children now are starting to be a little more awake and they're staying a little more awake because we're starting to tap into our own. And like I know Urania and I were talking about because we both have kids, like how different things, like I nurture different things now because of where I'm at and create that into life, like being able to nurture some of our intuition and our senses and where that would never be a thing when we were kids. Like we were not told to close our eyes and use our intuition and like what number am I thinking, like telepathy and things like that, like how energy moves. Like we've been playing, like my kids and I have been playing like how to move energy, which then like spins like a paper like on a thing, like and just playing. It's not like it's like, oh my gosh, we're doing something, whatever. Like it's not that. It's just understanding the world around us is how I see it, like from all different perspectives.
yeah, no, that's a good point. And yeah, I guess this is a good time to wrap this up because we definitely went over time here. But I think the main point here that we want to share is that we're all star seeds, right? And star seeds essentially means that we are humans carrying, the or part of the ancestral lineage that goes beyond our solar system. And so there's, many different perspectives and stories around how that came into being or that process of that. And I know we'll be sharing along the way little insights and so forth about this. Um, but yeah, I feel really good with this. And I know we're going to touch on a few of the galactic soul groups, but we are going to be sharing videos here over the next few weeks specific to these galactic soul groups. I know the first one we spoke to Sirians, Pleiadians,
And
and
Arcturians.
Nocturians, right? So that video will be here in the next coming days on my channel, Urania Heart Metaphysics. And we'll be sharing more videos like that of the different soul groups. So we didn't get to touch much on it today, but that will be there available for you.
And then
Um,
that's the how do you know my starseed thing is like a comment in there. And like that's how I would say is start watching those videos and see what you resonate with. And then Urania and I are working something in the background of that to really, if people are feeling called and want to go deeper, there is a whole process that will be coming through. So that's just a little tiny teaser plug for that piece. But I
yeah.
think like to
Oh,
like wrap up like what comes through that I want to make sure that I share before we come to a close is remembering like this whole process of understanding star seeds and things like that. It's not about you need to label yourself anything. It's not about having to decide right here in this moment. It's just following the curiosity, and if something stirs is stirring within you, that's enough. Like you don't have to have all the answers. That's not the whole point. Is just to play and be open and let it unfold.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, the wisdom will find you, the guidance, the soul family, it will find you as long as you're open to receiving and just exploring your curiosity with it. That information and what it is that you desire to remember, to understand, to feel within you will come to you naturally, right? So you're asking the
100%.
right questions. You're on the right track. So
Yeah. It's already a part of you. So it's not something you really like fine, it's already here. It's already been talking to you like Urania was saying like she was already having dreams and things. It's just now you're opening up to allow yourself to receive it in a different way. And there is no one right or wrong way to do it. Like it will come to you and normally in ways that feel safe enough for you. Like
perfect.
so it will look different each time.
Okay, Jackie. So where can everyone find you these days? Go to.
So I am mostly on Instagram. I have Instagram channel Grow with Jackie B. I also have, which you'll see that this video will be tagged. I do have a podcast, or not, I'd have a podcast too, but a YouTube channel as well that my podcast is on as well. But I have, and that is the Free and Fully Expressed channel. And so that will be co-tagged on here. I'm going to be dropping in the next couple months my origin series that gives a little bit more because this was mostly on my podcast or my YouTube channel right now is just the podcast replays in there, but I am going to be nurturing that this year too. So adding to that. And then all of these beautiful videos get collaborated over there as well. And then, so really, if you want to talk to me, like message me on Grow with Jackie B, give me a follow over there on Instagram. I have a podcast called The Free and Fully Expressed, the podcast on all the podcast platforms and my YouTube channel. So you can see that there too. Yeah, like that's the big places.
Awesome. And you're here on my channel. If you're new, thank you for being here at Urania Heart Metaphysics. And I'll be sharing more, of course, on Starseed, extraterrestrials, all of that. I also share on astrology and just and dreams. That's a major one. And I have a podcast called Journey Through the Interverse. And there's a channel for that as well, where I talk about dreams, astral travel, and mysticism with my co-host Alexis Carmody. And yeah, so we'll be here again in about a month. And again, stay tuned for the videos that we'll be dropping essentially once a week on the different Starseed or Galactic soul groups. So you can learn a little bit more about that there and see what resonates with you. And that'll help to really uncover or remember more of your specific galactic origins. And, all will unfold from there. So thank you everyone for being here. And please like the video. Please subscribe if you want to stay up to date with everything that we share here. But until then, happy new moon, everyone, and we'll see you next time.